This shot might be 25 to 30 yards, and I'm going to go pretty much directly at that tree. I'm going to have the face 20 degrees open like I spoke about, and really here I'm using my open face with my narrow arc finish. So we can see that ball popped up nice and soft. Actually, slightly caught behind that using the bounce, but because I'm using the bounce, I've got a nice bit of skid, and that worked out really well. I'm going to shift over now. So the right pin, as I mentioned before, it's probably about 10 yards on the green, maybe 30 feet, a little further on. For me, this is a pretty stock shot. So I don't have to get too fancy with this. I'm just going to use my normal slightly open face technique. Mid trajectory, ball's going to come in with a couple of bounces. And stop somewhere up near the pin. Now that to me was my medium arc finish. If we went to, you can see that pretty clearly. I'll just shift that camera a little bit. So we're going to go to the back pin, which is a little further on. And for this one, just for demonstration purposes, if it was that pin or even a little bit further on, I'd definitely play a lower trajectory shot. Now imagine we've got some into the wind like I mentioned before. This is slightly uphill, the green's raised. I'm going to have the face turned in a little bit, the ball's back, and I'm going to kind of chase this one in there. That ball rolled all the way back. Let's hit one more of those. Again, much lower flight. Ball's bouncing and rolling, releasing all the way back. You can play around with these scenarios as much or as little as you want based on the shot that you want to hit. Most golfers, because of the nature of how they've practiced over the years and maybe the club that they've used, get very comfortable with a certain shot type. I know growing up in Australian conditions, we had very, very firm ground. We could hit into the ground very hard, hit a lot of low spinning shots. So me personally, I got very comfortable seeing the ball at a mid to low trajectory and was able to put a lot of spin on it. Conditions here are a little different and a little more challenging because there's a lot of grain involved. But for me, hitting the high shots not as comfortable to me. So, and again, if you're used to using lob wedge like you mentioned, you probably like to see the ball going up a little bit more. But I would certainly say there's a lot more safety, and I think the contact consistency potential is there when the trajectory is medium to low. The pros would tend to launch their pitch shots, especially these ones, at more of a mid trajectory compared to what we're used to seeing maybe at a club level, because they get the most control with spin when they control the trajectory. It's not getting caught up in the wind, etc. So we want to keep the basic framework of the swing the same, learn to adjust the face, the ball position, the handle position accordingly, and again, start to develop our array of shots around the green. As I mentioned before, 20 yards, if I push forward a little bit, if I'm up in this situation here, 20 yards, I've got my stock face position, little pitch, on a mid to high trajectory. If I've got a back pin, face a little square here, lower trajectory, ball bounces, skips back, almost a little bit of draw spin on there. It really doesn't matter about the distance, 20 yards or so, going back to 30, pushing back a little bit further. It's the same scenario until we get into those distance wedges, which to me, then we start to work a little bit more on a feel of the length of the swing. But I would certainly encourage these types of shots to be more feel-based. Certainly we can know the distance, but when you start to change trajectory, you're not really using the same swing for each distance anyway. So you really have to get into the sense of feel and what sort of energy you'd need for the shot. So I hope that helps. A lot to digest, but the basic framework is develop a few different shots within one situation and then learn to play them in different scenarios let the situation dictate the shot, not just grabbing your sort of favorite club and sort of firing away. So hopefully that helps. As always, I look forward to hearing your feedback, and always good working with you.